I left my stable boyfriend for a so-called startup genius, loaned him all my savings, and he vanished. Meanwhile, my ex is traveling across Europe with his new girlfriend. Why is my life falling apart? The light from my phone is the only thing illuminating my apartment, and it is a cold and cruel light. It burns my eyes. I have been sitting on the sofa for almost an hour with the same cup of cold coffee next to me, scrolling nonstop. Every photo is a small stab. There is David smiling in front of the Colosseum in Rome. And in the next one, he and his new girlfriend, a sweet-faced girl with an easy smile, toasting with wine glasses on what looks like a terrace in Florence. The description says, creating memories with my favorite person. My stomach turns. My favorite person. How corny. How predictable. How unfair. I look around. The blanket I am covered with smells stale, and on the coffee table, next to the coffee cup, there is a white envelope with a red stripe. It is the second notice from the landlord. It tells me that if I do not pay the last 2 months' rent by Friday, he will start the eviction process. Friday is tomorrow, and in my bank account, I have exactly 17.42 timos. My eyes return to the phone screen. David and she are now in Venice, in a gondola. He looks at her as if she were the only person in the world, the same kind of look he used to give me. The difference is that she apparently deserves it. I cannot help but feel a wave of rage so intense that I want to throw the phone against the wall. Why him? Why is everything going so well for him? He did everything correctly. He saved, worked his boring 9-to-5 office job. He never took risks. And now the universe rewards him with dream trips and an adorable girlfriend who probably also has a pension plan. Meanwhile, I who bet on passion, who took a risk for something that seemed real and exciting, am here about to be on the street and eating instant noodles for the 3rd consecutive night. People always say you get what you deserve, but that is a lie. It is a phrase invented by conformists to feel better about their gray lives. I do not deserve this. I deserved adventure, excitement, a love that felt like the movies. I chose the brave option. I chose the path less traveled, and now I am being punished for it. While the one who chose the safe and boring highway is posting photos with tags like #Wanderlust and #LivingMyBestLife. It is a bad joke. I close the application with a sharp movement. The silence of the apartment falls on me like a slab. There are no messages from Leo. There have not been for days. His profile picture is still the same, a professional image where he smiles with that confidence that attracted me so much. The confidence of a man who knows he is going to conquer the world. The confidence of the man who promised me exactly that. A world full of trips, of successes, of everything but eviction notices. A knot forms in my throat. It is not just the money, it is the humiliation. It is seeing the life I should be having, lived by someone else. Someone who did not even have to fight for it. I remember perfectly why I left David. It was not an impulsive decision, it was a matter of survival. We had been together for 3 years and our life had become a suffocating routine. Friday nights were for pizza and Netflix, Sundays for grocery shopping and preparing food for the week. Once I suggested we go away for a weekend to the beach. Just like that. He took out a notebook and started doing calculations. If we save X amount for the next 3 months, we can go without affecting our down payment fund for the house, he said with a smug smile, as if he were doing me a favor. He did not understand. I did not want a 3-month plan. I wanted to live now. He called it being responsible. I called it being half dead. Every gesture of love he had was programmed. He brought me flowers on the 14th of every month because it was the day we met. Not because he felt like it on a random Tuesday. He made me breakfast, yes, but it was always the same. Toast with avocado and a latte. Everything in his life was a spreadsheet, a forecast. And I felt like I was becoming another cell in his Excel, a controlled variable. The turning point was the conversation about the joint budget. We were having dinner at home as almost always, and he, with all the enthusiasm in the world, showed me an application he had downloaded. He had entered all our expenses categorized by colors. Look, he said, pointing to a pie chart. We spend 15% more than we should on leisure and going out. If we reduce that, by the end of the year we will have enough for the mortgage down payment. I felt a chill run down my spine. He was not talking about our future, he was talking about my sentence. He was putting a price on my joy, on my spontaneity. I told him I felt overwhelmed, that his need to control everything was killing me. He frowned, genuinely confused. But I am just trying to build something for us, something secure. And that was the key word, secure. His security was my cage. I told him I needed air, that I needed passion, that I could not spend my life looking at colorful charts and waiting for a hypothetical future to start enjoying myself. He remained silent with a hurt look. "I thought that is what you wanted," he whispered. And the worst thing is that for a while I believed it too, but people change, needs evolve. I was not the same girl who settled for the security of a 5-year plan. I wanted to feel butterflies in my stomach, not the peace of mind of a well-stocked emergency fund. I wanted passionate conversations at 3 in the morning, not debates about which brand of toilet paper was on sale. David was a good man, I guess, but he was like a safe harbor where nothing ever happened, and I needed to sail on the high seas, even if there was a risk of storm. Rejecting his perfectly planned life was not a mistake, it was an act of self-love. And then Leo appeared. I met him at a networking conference I went to for work. David did not want to come. He said he preferred to use the afternoon to organize the storage room. While I was there surrounded by people with energy and ambition, he was at home labeling boxes. Leo was like a hurricane. He did not approach me with a cliché phrase, but stood next to me, looked at the crowd and said, 90% of these people are just here for the free canapes, but you look like you are thinking about building your own empire. And he was right, or at least that is what I wanted to hear. We talked for hours. He told me about his startups, his ideas to revolutionize the tech market, his trips to Bali for work. He did not talk about pension plans, he talked about funding rounds and selling his company for millions. He radiated a confidence that was magnetic. He made me feel that I could be like that too, that my life did not have to be limited to a fixed salary and paid vacations. That night, when he drove me home in his car, which smelled of leather and success, he kissed me and it was as if a switch turned on inside me, one that had been off for years. Of course, I felt guilty. For a couple of weeks, I tried to convince myself that it was just a friendship, an intellectual connection. I hid my meetings with Leo from David. I told him I was staying late at the office, or that I had plans with friends. Every message from Leo was a thrilling little secret. He took me to very expensive restaurants that David would have considered a waste. He gave me gifts just because, a book he thought I would like, a bracelet he saw in a shop window. He told me I was too brilliant for such a small life, and he was right. He saw in me what David was unable to see. He saw my potential, my hunger for more. With David, I felt like a well-cared-for houseplant, but in a pot that was too small. With Leo, the first felt like a redwood, capable of growing to the sky. The decision to leave David was not because of Leo, I told myself, it was because of me. Leo was just the catalyst that made me realize I deserved more than security and predictability. I deserved an adventure. I deserved a love that inspired me, not one that managed me. I rationalized that I was not cheating on David, but that I was being true to myself. It was a fundamental need, like breathing. David would never have understood it. If I had told him, he would have tried to fix it with a calm conversation and a list of pros and cons, but this was not something that could be put into a spreadsheet. It was a force of nature. And when Leo finally told me, leave that guy and let's build our future together, I knew there was no other option. I was choosing life over mere existence. The breakup with David was horrible, but necessary. I sat on the same sofa where I am now drowning in my debts and delivered the speech I had rehearsed 1,000 times. I told him that we were over, that I needed different things, that it was not his fault, but mine. He fell apart, cried, begged me, asked me if there was someone else, and I lied. I told him no, that I just needed space to find myself. I lied because in my mind it was an act of pity. Telling him the truth about Leo would have been cruel and unnecessary. He did not need to know that I was replacing him with an improved, more exciting and successful version of a man. His sadness seemed excessive to me, a little pathetic, to be honest, but we had plans. He repeated over and over again like a broken record. And every time he said it, it reaffirmed my decision. Precisely the problem was his plans, not ours. He clung to a future that I no longer wanted, to a version of me that no longer existed. When I left his apartment with my things, I felt an immense liberation. It was the first day of the rest of my amazing life. I moved into my own apartment, the same one I am in now, and felt like the protagonist of a romantic comedy. The first few weeks with Leo were a dream. Impromptu weekend trips, dinners with his partners, entire nights making love and talking about the names of our future children. I felt alive in a way I had never experienced before. A month later came the first request. We were having dinner, and he received a call. His face darkened. He told me that an investor had pulled out at the last minute and that he needed to cover an urgent payment for his new project. "It is only 2,000 euros, darling," he said, taking my hand. I will pay you back as soon as the next round closes. Next week at the latest. A small alarm went off in my head. An echo of David's voice telling me to be prudent, but I immediately silenced it. What kind of partner would I be if I did not support him at a time like this? This was what it meant to be in a real relationship, to support each other, to trust each other, to be a team. David would never have asked me for money, no, but he also would not have had the ambition to need it. Giving Leo the money was not a loan, it was an investment. An investment in him, in us, in our bright future. I felt adult, powerful. I made the transfer that same night, feeling proud to be the kind of woman who supports her man's dreams. That was just the beginning. A few weeks later, he needed another 3,000 euros for some customs problems, then 5,000 euros for the rent of the new offices. Each time he had a perfectly logical story, a detailed explanation of why it was a temporary crisis on his path to massive success. And each time I believed him, because wanting to believe him was easier than admitting the terrifying possibility that the exciting life I had chosen was a lie. Each transfer was a reaffirmation of my decision. I was betting big, yes, but the jackpot was going to be spectacular. And here I am now back in the present, on this sinking sofa with the phone screen off and the eviction letter staring at me. Leo's next week never came, not that one, nor the next, nor any other. The excuses began to become vaguer, his calls more sporadic, the stress of work, the pressure from investors. The last time I asked him to return even a part, he was offended. He accused me of not trusting him, of having a scarcity mindset, the same phrase I used to describe David. He told me I was pressuring him and that it did not help his creativity. And then, he just stopped answering. The irony is so bitter it burns my throat. I exhausted my savings, the small cushion that David had so insisted on building. Then I started using credit cards, all to invest in a dream that turned out to be a mirage. Leo was not a visionary. He was a scammer or perhaps just an incompetent dreamer. I do not know and I no longer care. The result is the same. He has left me ruined, not only financially, but emotionally. I feel stupid, naive, above all, deeply humiliated. But when I reopen my phone and see David's photos in Europe, my humiliation turns into a righteous fury. Because the real problem is not Leo. He was just a miscalculation, a bad actor in my story. The real problem is the fundamental injustice of the universe. David is in Rome not because he is a better person, but because he was lucky, because his boring and safe path, by pure chance, turned out to be the right one. There is no merit in that. There is no bravery in never taking risks. His happiness feels like a personal attack. It is as if the universe is laughing at me, rubbing it in my face that my search for passion and meaning was foolish. David and his new girlfriend smile from the Trevi fountain, and I know they probably made a wish, surely something practical, like that their long-term investment plan yields good results. Meanwhile, my only wish is to find a way not to have my power cut next week. So no, I do not regret leaving David. I regret that the world rewards mediocrity. I regret that people like him, the ones who never step out of line, end up winning. I bet everything on red and it came up black. And now I have to watch the guy who always played it safe take all the prizes. It is not fair. I dared to live and this is my punishment. He simply existed and this is his reward. How is anyone supposed to believe in anything when the world works in such a twisted and wrong way? Popular Reddit comments on the main story. Anonymous user 1. You call David boring and predictable for saving money and planning his future. The exciting guy steals every last cent from you and leaves you on the verge of eviction. And yet, the problem is that David is happy. The logic is simple. One built a future and the other sold you one. You chose the salesman. OP's reply. You people just do not understand. It is not just about the money, it is about the spirit. It is about daring to live a life that is not written in a spreadsheet. What I did was an act of faith and passion, not a financial risk analysis. Obviously, people on this forum prefer the security of a fixed salary. Not all of us settle for so little. Anonymous user 2. Honestly, you sound incredibly self-centered. Not only did you emotionally cheat on your boyfriend, but you lied to his face during the breakup to protect him. And now you are resentful because he has managed to be happy without you. Your life is not going badly. You are reaping the direct consequences of your own actions and your lack of respect for others. OP's reply. Cheating. Disrespect. I was fighting for my own happiness. Sometimes, to save yourself, you have to make difficult decisions. David would never have understood my needs. He would have clung to me and made us both miserable. What I did was a clean-cut, painful, but necessary. I put myself first for once in my life, and now it turns out that makes me a bad person. Wow. Anonymous user 3. Up. You are the problem. You totally complain that life treats you badly, but the reality is that you traded a good and stable man for a scammer who whispered what your ego wanted to hear in your ear. And now, instead of admitting your terrible error in judgment, you blame the universe and the ex you treated terribly. You are the architect of your own misfortune. OP's reply. It is incredible the amount of hatred and judgment here. I came to share my pain, to vent about how cruelly ironic life can be, and all I get are personal attacks. Clearly, this is not a space for people who truly feel. I hope you never find yourselves in a situation where your heart guides you down a path and everything blows up in your face. The lack of empathy is overwhelming. Update 1. A few days have passed since I wrote my original post, and to be honest, reading your comments has only made things worse. You have called me everything: self-centered, narcissistic, stupid. It is easy to judge from behind a screen, right? It is easy for all of you who are probably in relationships as predictable as the one I left behind to point fingers. None of you understand what it is like to feel like you are slowly suffocating and suddenly see a door open to fresh air. Leo was that door. That it turned out to be a trapdoor into the void is not something I could foresee. The rage I felt after reading your replies gave me a strange kind of extra energy. In the midst of all that negativity, I received a message. It was from Sarah, a friend David and I had in common. The message was short. Hi, I read what you posted on Reddit. I just wanted to know if you're okay. You have me worried. I felt a chill. Sarah had always been more of David's friend. She always looked at me with that little smug smile, as if she knew more than anyone. Her concern did not seem genuine to me. It felt like an "I told you so" wrapped in a bow of false kindness. I could not help it. My reply was curt. I am perfectly fine. Thanks for your interest. I wrote and added, some of us prefer to risk and lose than never live. She read the message instantly and the 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, she did not reply anything. Good, I do not need her pity or her silent sermons. She probably ran to tell David how pathetic my life was now. The mere idea made my blood boil, driven by a mixture of desperation and the need to prove to everyone, to you, to Sarah, to myself, that this was just a bump in the road. I decided I had to find Leo. I had to make him give me my money back. I went to his Instagram profile to send him a message, but I could not find it. User not found. Strange. I looked for him on Facebook, same thing. My heart started beating fast. I opened WhatsApp. His profile picture had disappeared. I sent him a message. Leo, we need to talk. A single tick. No, 2. He had blocked me. He had blocked me everywhere. The air escaped my lungs. The denial I had been sheltering and shattered. He was not a stressed entrepreneur. He was not a dreamer overwhelmed by debt. He was a ghost. He had disappeared, taking with him my savings, my dignity, and my future. The energy of rage vanished, leaving only a cold, terrifying emptiness. The eviction notice on the table seemed to scream at me. And then, at the lowest point I have ever been in my life, a terrible, yet strangely logical idea occurred to me. I opened my contacts and looked for his name, David. I stared at the screen with my thumb trembling over the call button. He always told me, no matter what happens, I will always be there for you. It was one of his corny and predictable phrases, but right now that promise was my only hope. It would not be to apologize, why would I? He is living his dream life in Europe. I am here in the hell he indirectly helped create by being so insufficient for me. If he had been more exciting, more passionate, I would never have looked at anyone else. In a way, he is partly to blame. So no, it would not be to ask for forgiveness, it would be to ask for what he owes me. 3 years of my life, of my support, of my youth. The least he can do is help me get out of this hole. It is a simple matter of justice. Popular Reddit comments on the update. 1. Anonymous user 4. You just said that David is partly to blame for you cheating on him and then being scammed by another guy. And now, to top it off, you are planning to ask him for money. This is no longer a lack of self-awareness, it is a level of delusion that borders on the pathological. Leave him alone. You have already hurt him enough. OP's reply. You people talk about harm, as if I am a movie villain. Relationships are complicated. If one person does not satisfy the needs of their partner, it is natural for that partner to seek satisfaction elsewhere. He did not give me the excitement I needed. It is not delusion, it is the simple truth. And the money is not a favor, it is a way to balance the scales for the years I invested in a dead-end relationship. Anonymous user 5. I am starting to feel sorry for your friend Sarah. She seems to be the only person who has approached you with genuine concern, and you have dismissed her with a passive-aggressive comment. You are so caught up in your victim role that you see attacks everywhere. You are burning all your bridges, and soon you will be completely alone. OP's reply. Genuine concern. Please. Sarah was always on David's side. Her message was to gather information so she could go tell all her little group how low I have fallen. I was right to cut her off. I do not need fake friends who enjoy my misfortune. I would rather be alone than be surrounded by hypocrites. Anonymous user 6OP. This is a plea. Do not call David for your own good and for his. The humiliation you will feel will be 1,000 times worse than your current situation. You are in a pit, and instead of looking for a ladder, you are asking for a shovel to dig deeper. Seek professional help. This is no longer about a bad romance. It is a pattern of self-destruction. OP's reply. Thanks for the unsolicited advice, but I think I know what is best for me. Humiliation. The real humiliation is having to choose between paying rent or eating. David lives in abundance. Helping me would cost him absolutely nothing. If he is the good person everyone thinks he is, he will do it. And if not, it will only prove that I was always right about him. Final update. I was about to do it. I had the message for David written in my notes. Something casual that sounded like I was not desperate, but that made my situation clear. My finger hovered over the copy button and then my phone started ringing. Sarah's name glowed on the screen. My first instinct was to hang up, reject the call and send her to voicemail, to oblivion, along with the rest of my old life. But something, perhaps a last and stupid bit of curiosity, made me slide my finger and answer. Before you hang up on me or say something horrible, you have to listen to me, her voice said bluntly. She did not sound compassionate or arrogant. She sounded exhausted. I am not calling you to say, I told you so. I am calling you because I cannot bear to watch you do this. Do not call David, please. I remained silent, disconcerted by her tone. Why not? I asked defensively. Are you afraid I will interrupt his perfect vacation? His vacation is not what you think, Sarah replied, and then she told me everything. The truth that was so simple and so devastating that my brain took several seconds to process it. David's boring 9 to 5 office job in a gray office was only one part of his life. For almost the last 2 years we were together, every night after I fell asleep and every weekend, while I complained about our boredom, he was working, he was teaching himself to program, he was building an application. An idea he had and never told me about because, according to Sarah, he knew you would make fun of him for spending more time with his laptop than with you. David's new girlfriend. That girl with the easy smile is not a stranger. She is another friend from our old circle. A quiet girl who always had her own small graphic design company. She knew about his project, she supported him, she encouraged him on nights of frustration, and celebrated his small advances. 3 months ago, David sold the application to a large technology company. She did not tell me the exact figure, but she did say it was enough for him not to have to worry about money again in his life. The trip to Europe is not a whim, it is the celebration of years of silent sacrifice, years that happened right under my nose, while I was too busy looking for excitement elsewhere. I felt as if the ground opened beneath my feet, but Sarah was not finished. And about Leo, she continued in a softer voice. You were not the only one. There are at least 2 other girls that I know of friends, to whom he did exactly the same thing. Same story about startups, same cash flow problems, same loans he never repaid. The money he took from you was not for any project, it was to pay for the rent of his luxury car and the expensive dinners with which he impressed you and the next one. I hung up the phone. I did not say goodbye, I did not say anything. I sat in the silence of my apartment with the 2 truths hitting me like waves. David was not a conformist, he was a silent genius. Leo was not a visionary, he was a parasite. All my justifications, all my complaints about the injustice of the universe, all my discourse about passion versus security, everything was a lie, a story I told myself so I could sleep at night. But then, as the initial shock faded, a new cold and sharp thought began to form in my mind. A coincidence that David's success exploded just after I left him, that Sarah called me just as I was about to contact him, that the new girlfriend was someone from our circle, someone who saw me with him, who saw how bored I was. No, it could not be a coincidence. Suddenly I saw everything with terrifying clarity. This was not a series of unfortunate events, it was a plan. They knew it. Sarah, the new girlfriend, all their happy little club of responsible people. They knew about Leo, or at least suspected, and did not do anything. They watched me walk towards the precipice and stood by. They enjoyed the show. David's success is not just his reward, it is his revenge. His trip to Europe is not a celebration, it is a victory parade designed for me to see. Every photo, every hashtag is a poisoned dart aimed directly at me. I no longer feel stupid, I feel hunted. I was not the architect of my misfortune, I was the victim of a silent and cruel conspiracy. They let me fall so they could gloat in my ruin. They think they have won. They think they have destroyed me, but they are wrong. Now I know. I know the truth behind their perfect smiles. And it is no longer about money or a broken heart. It is about them laughing from their pedestal. And from down here I see everything. Popular Reddit comments on the final update. Anonymous User 7. My God, your friend offers you the rawest and most honest truth to prevent you from humiliating yourself even more, and your brain twists it into a Hollywood conspiracy in which you are the main protagonist. You are sick. Seriously, seek psychiatric help. This is no longer normal. OP's reply. It is very easy to call someone sick when the truth is too uncomfortable. Do you really believe in so many coincidences? In selfless kindness. Wake up, people are calculating and cruel. I have only opened my eyes to how the world really works. You continue to live in a fairy tale. Anonymous User 8. This is the saddest possible ending. Not because you were scammed or are broke, but because you were given the key to escape your mental prison. Instead, you have decided to use it to double-lock the door from the inside. You refuse to accept the simplest reality. David worked hard and succeeded. Leo is a criminal. You made a bad decision. End. OP's reply. My mental prison, as you call it, is the only place where things make sense. Your simple reality is an insult to my intelligence. There is nothing simple about this. It is a game of power and humiliation. They moved the pieces and I was the sacrificed pawn. I do not expect you to understand, but I know what I saw. Anonymous User 9. So to be clear, your ex-boyfriend, whom you despised for being unambitious, secretly spent years of his life developing an app, sold it for a fortune, and went on a trip with his new girlfriend, all as part of a master plan to get revenge on you. You are not a victim. You are the textbook definition of a narcissist who cannot stand that the world does not revolve around her. OP's reply. Call me whatever you want. Narcissist, paranoid, whatever makes you feel superior in your perfect lives. I do not care. The truth does not need your approval to exist. They are toasting in some square in Europe, laughing, thinking they won, but I know what they did and living with that knowledge is my own kind of power.